Hi everyone, Gabesta here with one of my first commentary guides for Starcraft 2. I've been playing quite a bit of Starcraft 2, probably like many Blizzard fans, and really enjoying the game as a whole, especially the single player sort of achievement type stuff. I love to do the hard challenges, things like that. And I thought I might pass on some tips by doing a couple videos similar to my WoW style videos of commentating over the footage. So hopefully some people can get use out of these and you enjoy them. Anyway, this particular video is one of the harder challenges. You've seen the challenges on the single player menu. This is for the Psionic Assault challenge, which requires you to kill as many waves of enemies as possible and get a gold, which is what this video illustrates. You need to kill 225 or more enemies. And there are a maximum of 300 total. And in this video you'll see all 300 are killed. This is a perfect run. So you can kind of follow along as best you can if you want to get as many as possible. Anyway, I've sped up the video for the first 20% or so. So this is actually about 80% faster than normal. Just during these easier waves so that I can actually get the video down to 15 minutes so I don't have to use two parts when I upload it. So I apologize for the speed here. But you can see the basic strategy is the waves at the start here all come from the northeast. And the force field position I use is very precise. You can see I've put that top one in the exact same spot every time, and then I close it off with the one on the right. And those positions are good because they actually block off the line of sight and allow your sentries, if they're lined up at the top of that ramp, to shoot without getting in range or line of sight. So finally, when you get around 90 kills, you finally get some waves from the bottom. So as you can see, you just bunch up your sentries in this corner to overlook things. And because you're on high ground, you can just use, again, these two positions. The first force field just slightly off to the left of that bottom left corner, and then the one below that, and you just have to use the two force fields to close that off. This is the first Reaper wave, but because they're on the ramp, they're not actually going to jump up. So again, you can just do the normal thing. And I tend to use two force fields and one storm for all these early waves. You can kind of get away with just using auto attack on the sentries, but I don't bother. This is the first difficult wave. It's actually Reapers from the bottom. So what I do is I do this sort of 4 force field kind of a trap setup. And you can see I actually got a couple right under the force field. They're not moving, which isn't a problem. But generally what will happen if you do that 4 force field trap, they jump up and they all get stuck in that little pocket. And as long as you move your units away out of range, they won't be able to shoot you, and then you can just do one storm and kill them off. And so now we're back at normal speed, if I didn't mention that. One other tactic that you should try to do, as you'll see me do in these earlier waves where I don't have to work as quick, is to single select any of my energy units that are maximum energy, 200, 200. And right here you'll see that there's Banshees from the top. When you get to 148, you got to watch to your north. The easiest thing to do is select your High Templars, hold down Shift so that you're queuing up your commands, and then hit F, click the first Banshee, and then hit F and click the second Banshee. And that'll have your High Templar move, and as soon as it's in range of feedback, it will feed back the Banshee and kill them both well before they get a shot off. So remember, just use Shift to queue up commands in a row. That's really helpful. Anyway, what I was saying is you can use, if you use the energy from a maximum energy unit, Sentry or High Templar, then that's actually more efficient because you're spreading out the usage of your energy. Since energy regens over time, any unit that doesn't have full energy is actually regaining some of that. So you want to spread it out as much as possible, at least in the early waves when you don't have to, when you can micro a little more. So this wave is one of the hardest ones. It's Reapers and Ghosts. So what I actually do is instead of trying to use the ledge, I just make sort of a pyramid 5 force field shape, and then I back everything away. And so this forces the AI into a little cone there in the front, and then I just use my storm as normal and finish them off with any melee or anything. And you can see they got a couple shots off, but not enough to do any damage, just mostly shields. And this is the first flight wave you'll see. And I actually should have been morphing in an Archon earlier, I like to get one Archon out for this wave because they can be a little deadly with 6 of these dudes. But don't forget to use Guardian Shield on your Sentries. That really mitigates a lot of the damage, especially since the Mutalisk attack has that bouncing glaive attack. But otherwise, if you were able to get an Archon out before they actually came, the Archon can pretty much tank them all with the Guardian Shield and a little bit of extra damage. You can also use Storm, but be careful not to storm your own units when you're doing those Mutalisks. The wave following that can be tricky. The thing to do is to move your Sentries down, do your double block like you would normally do for the ground units, and then pull back. And that way the ground units are stuck, and then the Vikings will eventually fly up, and you can finish them off when they start to land. And once the Vikings are dead, then you can just move down, redo force fields, because you'll probably need to, and then finish off the ground units with a storm as normal. So at 186, as you see, you finally get units from the last position, the northwest. So what I do here is just block off the rocks as best as possible with 2 force fields, and this prevents most of the Zerglings from actually attacking and doing damage to the rocks. And then you just split up your forces to let the normal attacks do the damage. This roach wave can be a little bit difficult. I tried for a long time to just completely block off with force fields so that the roaches couldn't attack the rocks at all, but I found it was too much of a hassle, and as you'll see later, the rocks are going to die. Even if they don't die, you want them dead in a couple waves, so I just let them attack, and then I just use a few storms and try to do that sort of triangle funnel thing to get them into a storm position. And you can see they attack a couple of my units, but just take advantage of your shields, especially Archon shield if you have one out. And next up, of course, is the Ultralisk. The nice thing here is that the AI is kind of stupid, and so it will see itself getting attacked by your group of Sentries and try to run over, but realize it can't, and then go to the rocks and so on. Remember that you can't force field an Ultralisk because it's considered a massive unit. So if it does break the rocks, just kite and use your Archon to take the damage if needed. And as long as you finish off that Ultralisk quickly, then you should be able to get back and force field this ramp from these Banelings really quickly. And just like normal, real basic wave. And then finally, these are the last 2 units you need to achieve gold. And actually, as the last 2 units, it's very simple, and I don't know why they actually put tanks in. But again, just go down to the south, do your normal force field, slightly off to the left corner, the one below that, and then you can just auto-attack them down. And so from here on out, you've got gold, so congratulations. But if you want to keep going, try to get a perfect score. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. And again, if you have the time to set up your Sentries, you can see me trying to set some up at the top of the ramp here, just to help with auto-attack damage. Make sure they're not beyond that line, really, because they might get in range or line of sight. And then do the exact force field positions that you practiced. And then we get a storm in here as well. And this particular group may require 2 storms depending how well you get your Sentries set up beforehand. I think in this case I'm able to do it with just auto attack after 1 storm, because they all got pretty low. But just watch for that. So this is the wave that I was talking about, that you just want to let the rocks die. Because if you try to actually run up there and attack, they're going to have the line of sight advantage, being high ground, and it's pointless. Hydralisks will really destroy you. So it's best to let the rocks go down and then do this triangle formation of force fields. From there you can then throw a storm out, and you might have to re-force field as I do here. One thing that I practice is on these sort of waves where I'm pulling back, as I use the hold command so my units won't run forward and get attacked. But remember, if you do that with your High Templars, using a storm command afterward, you won't actually be able to get them to move. You have to stop them holding and then do the command. And you can see there I sort of got behind, so I didn't get my normal force field spot. But even on this southern ramp, there's still equivalent positions as the northern one. If you do it correctly, you can keep them really low down so they don't get line of sight or range. And then just finish them off as you normally would on the northern ramp. This Hellion wave is also very difficult because they have such huge range and they're really fast. So use that triangle and then immediately pull back. Make sure you have at least one feedback available for that Banshee, and use it quick, and then go ahead and get rid of those Hellions. At this point, you should have 3 or 4 High Templars left, which you'll need for the energy for 2 storms, because you can't really afford to get in range, because the Hellions shoot really far. And they do a lot of damage to the light units that you have, so try to stay back and use storms on that wave. This one's really easy. There's only 2 Mutalisks, so you can just let Archons do most of the damage. Make sure you force field the Banelings first before you worry about the Mutalisks. And then once Mutalisks are dead, you can go ahead and storm, just like normal. So we're coming up to the end here. As you saw, I just morphed in another Archon. And you want to save at least 1 High Templar for the final waves, ideally 2. But I like Archons for Ultralisks, as you'll see later here. So this wave, you just want to do the normal force fields. You really don't want to storm because you're going to probably be low on energy at this point. So just try to use auto attack. Because there's like 3 Immortals and a bunch of units, it's going to take double force fields. So what I actually do is keep most of my Sentries down at the bottom attacking, and I move 1 up to the top, right there. And that guy's just available to force field this next group that's coming in, while the rest of my Sentries finish things off. Also, I didn't mention it, but just sort of common sense, when you are force fielding a ramp or an area, try to wait to force field to the last second, just before the point where the mobs would come up and, risk your position. Because the longer you can wait, then obviously the better you'll be able to handle things. You'll have more time. So you saw there I did a little miss micro, especially on my Archons, so I sort of got flustered. Just make sure you use hold commands a lot if you forget, like me. And at this point we finally get the bigger units. So I like to use some Phoenix hallucinations for this flying unit. And make sure they engage first, and that'll sort of force the AI to attack it. And then quickly get a feedback in. That's like half the damage that you need to deal in one spell. And then just Guardian Shield if necessary, and sort of spread your concave out. And you should be able to take it down fine. The Colossus can be a little tricky. I like to use Immortals hallucinations, 2 or 3 of those. And again, try to get those out in front so they're the first thing that are attacked. And then bring in the rest of your units. And you got to be really quickly, you have to be really quick on attacking. I kind of bring in my Archon group a little late here, but still the Immortal hallucinations hang on, and the splash damage isn't so significant that it destroys my Sentries. So we're still doing good. We only have three to go, and I haven't lost any units yet, just a couple low health. So I've got this Southern Ultralisk. And as I mentioned, you got to use Archons to tank Ultralisks. They just soak the damage really well, and because they have the shields, obviously, there's no real permanent damage dealt to them. So as long as they get out in front, they should keep aggro, and you should be fine to use auto attack. So we finish that off, then you got 2 more. The Thor is actually the hardest wave in the entire thing, in my opinion, because he doesn't actually keep on his initial target very well. He likes to attack Sentries. But again, I try to use an Immortal. It's probably not the best unit since he is armored. Archon might be better to tank him, but, whatever. So I do lose 1 Sentry there, and I think another one. Yeah, there's a second one that goes down. But if you can, micro them away, as I'm trying to do here, just to save them. It basically takes 2 shots of a full shield, full health Sentry to die from a Thor. So if you react quickly enough, you can get them out before the second shot goes off. So the Mothership is the final. Again, if you have any energy left, you need energy for Guardian Shield ideally. Use the rest on hallucinations. I like to use Phoenix because the Mothership's flight and it likes to attack them. And then just barrel in there with everything you got. As long as you have really any units left, you should be fine. Make sure you open up with a feedback because the Mothership will vortex your units if you don't. And other than that, well done and congratulations.